In the thick of the testing period, there are some last minute changes you can make to hopefully elevate your score by that last 100 and 200 points. And in my experience, teaching UCAT for 5 years now, I think these are the areas that are quickest to change in 1 day to 1 week, and hopefully can get you that last minute edge on test day. So I think hopefully you've done many mocks by the time you sit your test. And so just getting in a habit of doing mocks. Most people will do a mock a day, but I think anything from like 2 to 3 mocks a week to some people do multiple mocks a day. But once you're in that range, I think that's okay. I certainly think the benefit tapers off after a while, but that's not to say that there isn't still a benefit. So I think it's good to have done, at least the 4 official question bank mocks and probably at least 10 mocks overall by the time you sit the test. But sort of, I think the benefit starts tapering off there. Is there much difference between 10 and 100? Okay, maybe a little bit, but between 50 and 100, I'm not so sure. In the past, there was only 8 mocks on some of the paid platforms, and now there might be 20. So people are doing more mocks. But I think always have a goal when you're doing the mocks. And if you find they're helpful, great. If you find that you get nervous or something happens during the mocks, or they're slightly different, they're slightly harder, good, there's utility there. But if you just feel like you're going through the motions, getting the same score, maybe some of these areas could be better for you to try. So in each of the 3 sections, I think there are small minor changes that you can make within 1 day to 1 week. So VR, yes, it seems obvious, but the most important thing to focus on is answering all the questions. I think some people can not really give up, but try and adjust their strategy so that they want to answer 38 questions well or 36 questions well and then guess 6 to 8 questions at the end. But I find that it's going to be very hard for you to beat 90% of people when you don't answer all the questions, because I think the top 10% students will be able to answer all those questions at a reasonably consistent efficacy. So when I say answer all the questions, yes, no kidding, but also try and make sure your accuracy is the same throughout the subtest. Lots of people that last 2 sets will either guess them or rush them. And if anything, they're going to give you an easier sets than those last 2 compared to some in the middle. I often see true false can't tell sets at the end. And so that's just something to bear in mind. But I think once you can finish all the questions consistently, your accuracy is maintained across the subtest, I think you're basically at least 80% of the way there in terms of VR improvement. A final thing to work on is perhaps the true false can't tell questions. If you find yourself struggling a bit with those definitions, they'll be easier to work on and improve in a short time frame compared to the which of the following is true or author questions. You can just do a time set of 10 questions just to get in the habit of practicing that and finish off those true false can't tell questions on the platform that you're using, but only if that's an area that you struggle with. If you already feel comfortable with that, then perhaps your time is best spent elsewhere. In decision making, I think focusing on the 3 shorter question types is generally the way to go. I find people can improve on the arguments, Venn diagrams, and probability within 1 day. And you can easily do time sets of 10 questions in each of these sections, depending on which one is your weakness. I think you have higher standards in these question types. Try and get 100% on them compared to some of the inference questions or the syllogisms where it's normal to have partials or drop the occasional mark. So if you're getting more than one of these wrong every exam, that's definitely something to work on. But even if you're consistently getting a probability question wrong, that's something to maybe do a deep dive on, because that should be easy to fix. Yes, occasionally they give you a super hard question, particularly in the Venn diagrams, or an argument doesn't make sense. So if it's just anomalies, one-off things, that's fine. But if it's consistently the case that you're dropping a mark there, that mark is probably easier to gain than a mark on the inferences, for example. Finally, in quantitative reasoning, lots and lots of people seem to be scoring very highly. And there's always some mixed reviews. Some people will find things easier. Some people will find it harder. But the main things are to, yes, finish the test, but also to avoid spending too long on a question as well. So there's 3 pillars. Number 1, when you read the question, read it slowly and carefully. If you read the question and you know what steps are involved in getting to the answer, most people will get that question right. It's when you sort of misread or miss a word or get the wrong idea and then you go do something else for 30 seconds. Those are the traps. And that's the avenue people go down when they start messing things up. Number two, I think you do need to have some, like, expect yourself to make a couple of those mistakes. I know for myself, if I'm ever doing, 36 questions of maths in a row, I'm expecting myself to make 2 or 3 errors. And same thing happens when I do quantitative. I expect, a couple of questions where maybe I get an answer and it's not one of the options, or I start calculating and I get confused. And in those cases, I skip early and I make the effort in quantitative of trying to keep everything under 60 seconds until I come back to it at the end. So yes, maybe it's an easy average question that I think I can get right in 40 seconds. But when I'm calculating, I mistype a number and I'm like, oh no, I have to start again. I will skip that, do everything else and come back to it. So just making sure that you have these protective mechanisms in place that will stop you going way over time when some silly mistake or something happens where you get confused on a quantitative question. Finally, trying to detect and avoid the easy mistakes. So in quantitative, the level of maths most people are working at in their high school setting is generally a lot more complicated than quantitative, but there's always the chance that you make these easy mistakes. You answer in kilometers when it says miles, or you miss the decimal point. Something like this that's very easy to manage. Practically speaking, the best way of, I think, managing that is to notice in the questions you've got wrong, try and work out why you've gotten those wrong. What was the actual reason for that? And if you can work out why it went wrong or what the mistake was, then you know what to look out for in the actual test. And say, oh, I've got this miles and kilometers question wrong previously. I'm going to look out for that. Here, I'm going to transform or convert miles to kilometers straight away, so then I don't risk making that mistake and I don't have to remember it for later on. Finally, test day mentality is something I've talked about before, but that is, I think, quite important and one of the most significant last minute changes you can have. It is normal and natural to be nervous, and it's very person specific as well. But I'd say try and trust the process that you've done, all the exams you've done, the consistency you've had, the preparation you've done. I think generally speaking, compared to the practice material, the actual exam is more similar than not. And so, yes, there's all these sort of fine discrepancies that people can go into, but I try and treat it as just another mock and just another one of the 20 or 30 mocks you've done before. But whatever works for you, whatever helps you keep calm and focused, that's what you should be trialing and putting into practice. Whatever you need to do to put yourself under a bit of pressure beforehand. But I think lots of people naturally feel that pressure when they're doing the mocks because of the scarcity of them. If you're serious about getting a good score, putting in, whether it be you have 1 month to go or 1 year to go, it's important with the UCAT to get yourself equipped with the best resources possible because you need to be in the top 5 to 10%. So the first thing you should do is click the link in the description. This will give you access to my inner circle where I provide exclusive resources. The first of these is free PDFs. I every week will send out a free PDF covering some of my best strategies in each section. And so these include things like question types and key factors that you can consider. Additionally, by clicking out the link in the description, we can have a free one-on-one call where I give you my approach to practicing the UCAT and give you some advice and some free mentorship on how you can do well with this test and what it's like once you're in med. Furthermore, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for this to be the biggest area of free UCAT resources available with videos, PDFs, and free calls. And so why not get your hands on these resources that have helped me and others get into med? Please do me a favor and share this with others if you found it helpful, and stay tuned for more videos on this channel. Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you next time.